Wonderful. Okay, folks, well, welcome to this Go for Diamond webinar. And this evening is what the topic that we want to talk about is the 11 recruiting mistakes that was covered at the very first day with Jefferson Santos. And of course, some of you might have heard the training or seen the training, but what I wanted you to get is our perspective. See, Tammy and I have made millions. I mean, millions. We made our first million in 2011 with this industry. And there's a reason why we've made that. But it's nice for you to hear it from different point of views. And I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of the information was very common to what some of you might have heard before. But it's good to hear it from a third party. And I thought there were some really good points. And if you saw the email, there was 11 points plus a bonus one that we'll talk about, which is absolutely critical. So tonight is the last day of the month. And I know that many associates are working to finish their month as strong as they possibly can. And just before we begin, I wanted to mention that it was a message from our CEO, Joe Wojtecki, in reference to the new back office. Max realizes that there's a lot of little inconsistencies that associates are used to that are still under implementation, and they're working on that throughout the month of December. So when you are logging into your back office, and I do recommend you attempt to log into your back office so you know what it is we're talking about, you'll notice that on the top banner, the very first one, it scrolls from left to right to left, the very first banner that you see, and if you missed it, you can always click the arrow back of forward to get back to it. When you click on that banner, it will take you back to the old back office. And then you have to re-log in, of course. It's a different platform for you to be able to access the data. Okay. But do familiarize yourself with the new back office. And if you find anything that is consistent, that is not working well for you, or it's just not clear, what's important is to send the information. Tammy, if you want to type this, I had the email here. It's vofeedback@max.com. vofeedback@max.com. Tammy, if you want to put it on the chat section, it's very important that you communicate your voice in reference to something you're not comfortable with or that needs to be worked on. Because if we don't, then you may find a problem will persist long after the release of the new back office. As we know, it's existent and it's there, and you can actually sign people and everything else, and you may find some little snags. And it's important that we capture as much as this as we can before this becomes viral, because once we let go of the old back office, it is over. I mean, we're never going to go back to it, okay? So on this note, the other thing that I do want to mention, there was an email. I know many of you have subscribed for the GoPro event on December 11th, 12th, 13th. There's an email that was recently broadcast by GoPro, Eric, with all of the details that you should be aware of. So do pay attention to the details. I don't want to talk about it too much because not everybody's involved. And if you're not, I do recommend for you to attend. And the reason for that is that it will be very, very instrumental, specifically with social media approach, which because of the COVID-19 kind of environment, the way we do business now is a lot towards social media environment, right? And it's very important not to alienate yourselves from these kind of tools, but familiarize yourself. It's like people say, I'm never going to use a cell phone. Well, you kind of be in trouble right now because nobody uses a landline anymore. Everybody uses cell phones. So keep in mind that I really recommend you participate. Of course, Tammy and I are going to be sharing as much as we can, but like many of you have recognized, it's never the same than being part of an event, right? So really, really recommend for you to participate. So at this point, what Tammy and I want to do is I'm just going to share my screen for one moment here to kind of focus on that. Are you guys seeing Jeff Santos, 11 recruiting mistakes? You guys are seeing that? Yes, I just want to confirm. Just type in a yes on the chat section. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. This really helps out. I'm just going to leave it on for a little bit so we can focus on the visual while we're sharing. And Tammy and I are going to go through every one of them, and we're going to share our thoughts in reference to the topic per se. So at this point, one thing that I'd like to mention, folks, is this business is a personal business, and you will find you will each develop your own characteristic, your own approach on how to do things. And that is totally fine. In fact, I encourage it. But at the beginning, when you begin, if you want to, the shortest distance towards having results is to follow the steps of others that have had success. And this is what I recommend. Once you've had some success following the steps, then you can start maybe redefining things, right? And that's why often there's different groups that we have with the diamonds, have a group for the crown diamonds and so forth. And the reason for this is that when you get to these different levels, your leadership, your approach, your experience, your intuition evolves, right? And then you come up with some new ideas and new fresh perspective on how to do things that could be very constructive. But at the beginning, I really recommend for you to focus on some of the things. And we're not just going to focus on the negative on 11 recruiting mistakes. Is throughout these mistakes, we want to communicate how Tammy and I handle certain situation. So Tammy are going to go back and forth. And Tammy, did you want to start, or did you want me to start?
Yeah, sure. Just to share with everybody, as I look at this list, I've probably made every one of these mistakes. And I just want you to know that, everybody goes through the challenges in the prospecting process. So don't think that it's you. And obviously, as you grow and your story gets better and you're more comfortable connecting with people, you will find that you will get better results. As Jim Rohn says, you want to make up in numbers what you lack in skills at the beginning. And I remember I was doing a lot of numbers and I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. But I kept staying the course. I kept listening to the leadership when I was brand new. And I learned over time not to take anything personally. So there's many things that you're going to go through, and just understand that it's part of the process. Be patient with the process and understand that you're not alone, that everybody else goes through it too. And if you have a really crappy day, call a leader. They're always going to pick you up. So don't try and don't stay down alone. So contact somebody and they'll give you some feedback. So it's really important to do that. So not deciding to win. So many people play small. And I've always wanted to win, no matter what I did. Even when I was a kid, I've always set targets to win. And I just went for it. If I fell, so what? I got up and I do it again. But many people decide not to win because it's easier, that you don't have to face that, you don't have to face anything if you don't make that decision to win. But it's so critical to set targets and aim towards it. Because I can tell you one thing, even if you don't hit your target, you will go further in your growth, personally and results, than if you didn't decide to win, if you didn't set any targets. So always keep that in mind. Always have a goal, always have a target. Every single day you set a target goal. You have to talk to 10 to get to 2. So understand the numbers, or you may even connect to 1. So you need to do 20 if you want to connect to 2 or 3. So you got to understand that you need to do the numbers, and that's part of the winning game, and set your target.
I totally agree. Wait, Tammy, did you pause, or is it your froze? Not sure.
Oh, I paused.
Okay, perfect. So here's the thing, and I remember, and folks, this is really, really important, because I can really decide on not deciding to win. Many of you have probably noticed I posted like a, 25-year-old picture when I did this kick. And there was once upon a time I was a karate guy and I was competing. I was competitive. And here's the thing. I'm going to be transparent with you here. I was afraid of losing. I hated losing. And because of my fear of losing, often I prepared myself to lose. And this is the honest to God truth. Often I won, but I went there knowing that I'm not going to win. This because I'm going to be someone better than me. So I won't feel disappointed if I lose. And the reason why I'm being transparent, I'm sharing this with you, is because often in this business, people do the exact same thing. They come in expecting to fail. And we talked about this event. And Tammy, do you mind typing virtualgopro.com/max? virtualgopro.com/max. And again, the reason I'm very persistent and insistent in attending this event, it's because I know how events have evolved my mindset. And I'm not just talking about network marketing. If you go back to my karate days, I was invited to go to, being a Canadian, always lived in, at the time it was in Montreal, never really got out of my area code. And then my mentor at the time told me, Chris, I want you to go to Atlanta. Atlanta? Go to the United States? And we had to drive there? I mean, I was scared as I was really uncomfortable. But he even went to my parents. I was 15 years old at the time to make sure it was okay because obviously I was a minor. And my parents agreed to it. And when I went there, I saw something else. I recognized the world and what I could be in that world. And I ended up doing very well. Man, I was scared. I think I was a yellow belt. If you understand, there's a white belt, there's a yellow belt, and then there's an orange belt, there's a green belt, and then there's a blue belt, a brown belt, black belt, second degree, third degree. I went all the way up to third. And I remember as a yellow belt doing my tournament, and I won my first fight. So my point here, it's not about the fighting. And in fact, often people think karate, it's about fighting, and you have no idea. It's mindset. It's you don't hurt. Nobody gets hurt unless there's an accident because it's all controlled. But it's the fear that I had. And for me, this is where everything started. This is when I started breaking free from my fears. So I'm going back all the way to the source here. But in this business, events like the one I just asked Tammy to type in here are the kind of events that will help you break these fears by listening to those millionaires and explaining and sharing with you how they got through to the challenges and what they had to do to overcome them. And often many of you are going to be able to relate, not knowing that they're not just born with money, they're not just lucky, right? They went through, they had the fear, but despite the fear, they went ahead and did it anyway. So that's the point, is decide to win. This is so important. That's why I'm spending a lot of time on that. Everything else, I'm telling you, is secondary. If you decide you're going to win and you're going to make it, the power of your mind is incredible. And that's where it all begins. We can teach you, they will blow in the face. At the end of the day, if you choose not to win, well, guess what? You'll get the results that you're expecting, as I stated in my case when I was starting my tournaments. Moving on to the second thing is not knowing the cost of not recruiting. Let me go back to my notes here. What's really important here is, again, it goes back to attitude. One of the things that's very important here is often people are afraid of approaching in fear of, oh, they're not going to like this business. Oh, they're going to laugh at me because, you might feel uncomfortable yourself. And really, that's where to begin. That's where the source is your belief in the industry. The network marketing industry is not very strong. So that fear is taking the lead. And because of that, you have a bit of a stigma and a fear of approaching people about the recruiting. But you see, there's many ways to go about it. And Tammy and I can explain all different examples. And many of you are doing extremely well right away, actually. The key is to talk to someone like a friend, not like a salesperson, and not trying to push them through doing something they don't want to do. And that's why your story is so important. And not doing the prospecting will definitely affect your results. The cost of not recruiting is deadly in this business. It's okay to get customers. For me, customers are my default. That's the least. This is the last resort if everything else fail. And I don't necessarily start with the business. I'll start about, for example, how I felt at the beginning when I was struggling, when Tammy and I were struggling financially. And we were looking for something to create some stability. And we found something, especially today, because of people losing their jobs and the issue with the viruses. There's so much value to what we have to offer. But you need to accept that you need to go out there and recruit. You need to go talk to people. What are your thoughts on that, Tammy?
Well, I believe every single one of us that are committed, and especially ones who actually show up on the live sessions, we're in this because of what the product has done for us, our family.
Tammy, you're cutting off.
Yeah, Chris, I've got really terrible internet. You want me to come in your office because it's really bad tonight?
Yeah, bring a chair. We'll go side by side. Okay, so while Tammy is doing this, let me talk about the second one, is not doing a proper phone dump. What we mean by that is do not prejudge. Do not prejudge. Never decide if someone will or will not do this business. Never prejudge. I remember there was a time where Tammy and I were, there we go.
Keep going.
Tammy and I were doing some prospecting years ago. And I remember that I met this young lady, and she was very shy. Between you and I, if you look at a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, she was like a 2.5. And I told Tammy, you know what? I think I'm wasting my time.
I remember that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's like it was yesterday.
Yeah. And then what happened is Tammy continued a relationship with her. And then finally I started having a conversation with her. And then she introduced me to her boyfriend. And guess what? Her boyfriend owned an oil rig of $400 million. And he bought, what it is, I think he bought $100,000 worth of product. That was a previous company that we sent in England. That's where it all started. It's really, really interesting. So this is my point.
You never know who you're talking to, really. Even if you feel like they're not the ones, build relationships. I remember Paul and I have had these conversations in the past. You know, it's not even so much the person that you're talking to. Always, when you're talking to somebody, know that they know at least 200 people by their first name. Okay, so don't look at it like the prospecting this one person that may or may not do this. Think bigger. You always have to think bigger in this. I didn't get any of this when I was new. I really didn't. I was like everybody else that was doing, what I was supposed to do in the prospecting process and doing the numbers like everybody else does the numbers. And my numbers weren't that good at the beginning. And then I started to figure out, different things, how to connect with that personality type. I took a session on learning the different personalities, how to approach people with the different personalities. We should do a session on that sometime. But that's how you learn, is to just get out there and make mistakes. It's okay. It's okay, because you can always get back to them. I'm telling you, I've screwed up so much. I remember at the beginning, my whole list, I burned my whole list, and I was like, oh my gosh, I got nobody else to talk to. I had to go in the cold market really, really fast because I burned my list. But here's what happened. I ended up going full-time in the industry within a year. I bought a BMW convertible. I was enjoying life, sold my swimsuit designing company, and I was able to get back to those people and just say, you know what? I totally screwed up. I didn't know what I was doing a year ago. I was just learning this industry, and I am so sorry for the way I approached you. I did the apology, and they said, no worries. And then they say, well, how are you doing with that thing? And then the opening comes, right? Where I can start telling them how well I've done. So don't worry, you can mess up and you can apologize later. Don't worry about it. Okay?
Totally
Understand
agree.
that.
I totally agree on that. So the next point, I think, as we move forward here is not blocking time to recruit. Not going to spend too much time on that because I think it speaks for itself. But very, very important. If you have a job, I bet you have hours that you need to operate. You need to wake up, get ready, show up for work. Well, pro-COVID, you understand what I mean? So what's important here is in this business, you got to treat it the same way. So let's say you wake up, I don't know, 7. That's when we wake up in the morning, right? You get ready, your day starts at 8. Okay, some of you, in our case, we train in the morning and then and our day begins. And we have a routine, just like we had a job. And I'm not saying that you need to buy yourself into a job. That's not it. But you need to have some structure. So schedule the block. Schedule your time. Block your time that you're going to do your max business. I cannot stress this enough. Until you do that, you will not take your business seriously. Block your time. Schedule your time. And force yourself to do the money-making activities. That's not browsing online and searching for leads. That's outside of the hours because you can spend weeks doing that with absolutely no results. What I'm talking about here is talking to people, follow up with someone, just making sure that if someone just signed up that they're doing okay, a little text message, to them, let them know that you're there. Do they need help? If you have 3 people, well, you're not going to spend 2 hours working with 3 people. So that means that you go through your Rolodex and find out who are the people you can talk to, and then just make a quick phone call. If you work your story, that's where you begin. Joe, Mary, listen, I'm giving you a phone call because something came to my attention that I really think you should be aware of. We're dealing with a pandemic that is quite serious that affects our immune system. And there's a company that's been around for over 13 and a half years that is actually focusing with some of the precursor products on exactly how to handle our immune system. So we're better prepared. In the same time, it compensates their consumers. I'm just giving you, I just made that up as we speak here. That's how it just comes naturally, right? I just think of all the scenarios that we live in, and do you know what I'm saying? You've got to block the time. The second thing, the other thing that's important, and Tammy, we can cover on this one here, is talking too much and sounding desperate. This is another big one.
Yeah, it's so true. But you know what? You need to connect to people. Just the key is to find an in to get them to look at something. That's your goal. Find an in to get them to look at something as quick as possible in the relationship building process. Every single person you're going to talk to is different. So there's no one way of doing this, but get a feel for it, find out where people are at, be empathetic, and see if they're open based on the situation that they're in. That's what I do every single day. And, when Chris talks about blocking time, you really got to block time. If you are planning to do max 2 hours a day, if you haven't got an organization, that's 2 hours of talking to people nonstop until you get the interest for you to send them some links. Okay, every day you do that until you start having a follow-up process added to your schedule, which you block that out. So in our case, because we talk to people regularly, we've got we would slot 1 hour of recruiting. We slot 1 hour of follow-ups. We pick a time where we're going to do our follow-ups. Most of the follow-ups that we do, it can't be like, oh, we got lots of time during the day. Not everybody has lots of time during the day. So our follow-ups are generally in the evening, okay? Because that is the best time to get a hold of people. So you have to work your business also around the hours that your people are available as well. Weekends are pretty open for people. I think a lot of people are home now. So evenings and weekends are pretty open for people. And at the end of the day, you know, if you want to succeed in this business, you need to sacrifice. You know, you really do have to sacrifice at the beginning to get some momentum, because then you have other people that are doing it with you. But at the beginning, it's like pushing that ball up the hill. And sometimes, I'm telling you, sometimes you just don't feel like it. Those are the times you have to do it the most. Those are the times it'll blow your mind. Those last few phone calls, if you would have given up, you would have missed out on huge opportunities. I know it because it's happened to us.
And in fact, we've learned from that. And over time, knowing this, some of our best business, and I know we've mentioned that in previous calls, happened to be when we least expected it.
When we didn't feel
like it. It's just crazy. So number 6, very important, is no setup when bringing up the opportunity. What do I mean by that? See, many of you may not be familiar with the back office, especially now with a new one. That's why I'm asking you to familiarize with the registration process. If I can suggest for you some homework for tonight or within the next 24 hours, is go in your back office as if you're about to enroll someone. Very important. Because let's say someone is ready to start right now. You know what happened often? Because people are not ready, they don't know how to put them in a system, they will talk them out of the business. They're ready to go, they're hot. But you don't know how, so you keep talking, you keep adding, they have enough, and now you're talking them out of the business. I have seen that over and over and over. So very important is be prepared.
Yeah.
If someone is ready to start, just hit the iron while it's hot. Now when it's cold again and you have to go back again, and sometimes it might be very hard to bring them up to that level where they're ready to start again, right? Because you talked them out of the business. So that I cannot stress this enough. So make sure that you are familiar with your back office, with the system. And the worst is take it on paper, right? And when the computer is down, because sometimes, let's face it, computers fail, the internet gets down, it blocks, whatever the situation may be. Or if you do it on your phone, which I really don't recommend, because sometimes it's, it's weird. And then you got all their information and boop, you just lost their information because something went wrong. Now you have to start all over again. These are steps that will talk them out of the business. Be prepared. Okay, so if you're not used to it, write it on paper, but make sure that you know how to run your business and not having to ask someone, could you please do it for me? That is the worst thing for you, especially in trying to duplicate the process.
Another thing, just to add to that, you want to get organized, or maybe you're already organized, but what's important is to put on a Word document or whatever, all the links. You need to be prepared to send people all this information as depending on how far they are in the evaluation. So if somebody's brand new, you got to have that link available so you can forward it to them. Because often, especially when people are fairly new, we'll get a quick text, hey, can you do me a favor and forward me this? Can you do me a favor and forward me that? And you're going to get that too when your new people are new. So it's important that everybody has the links moving forward. So what is the first step? maxlook.info. Everybody should have that link, and they should be forwarding that link to the prospect. So as you sign somebody up in the new associate training, they need to have that link so that they can start sending that out to their prospects. So always be prepared for the next step, because what's the next step after that is the third-party validation. From there, they may want more information. So you need to have the accessibility to grab these things and send them to your prospect.
I cannot agree that more. It's absolutely dead on. The number 7 is not giving them an out. What's very important is that fear of loss, not desperation, but creating a fear of loss. And it's okay. The next point you'll notice, we'll talk about, not everybody's going to want to do this, and accept that. Mm-hmm. It's just the way it is. And I think what's happening here is when you're presenting and you realize that sometimes the person you're talking to, they might love you, they might care for you, they might respect you, but it's just not something that they can relate to. Give them an out. Mm-hmm. Say, hey, John, Mary, I can see right now that this is not something you're comfortable with. That is totally, totally okay. I want you to know that I really believe in this and I'm going to go far with it. But if it's not something that you're comfortable with, it's totally okay. I want you to be comfortable to walk away if it's not something that you want to do. Give them an out. You know what happens? It releases the pressure that they need to say yes to you. Otherwise, you'll get mad. Right? This is really important. There is no value in forcing someone into the business. Trust me, we've done that in the past and they end up quitting anyway, right? With bad taste and I knew it and, so you don't want them in a business kicking and screaming. It's not worth it. There are so many that are going to die for this opportunity. You know what I mean by that, right? They're looking. That's who you're looking for. So when you prospect, which kind of brings us to the number 8, is expect that not everyone is going to sign up, right? Yeah. Some people are just not open. It's like not everybody wants to be a lawyer. I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't want to be a doctor, right? And I wanted to be a business person. That was my thing. I always wanted to do that. Before that, I was a karate instructor. I loved working with people. I love training people. I love mentoring people. And here I am doing the same thing, just in a different context. It's really interesting how life is. So the fact is, not everybody will be cut out for this environment, right? They could become your customer. This is what I meant earlier, is my default are my customers. Mm-hmm. But I think many times people lead with the customer. They settle for the customer in fear of, I may scare them if they don't want to. If it's okay if they're not open to it, right? It's totally okay. Don't be pressured because you need to sign them up because you spoke to them, right? Just let them go. And you'll notice that when you release that pressure from you, the business becomes a lot easier, a lot less stressful, and the people around you are not as stressed because they don't feel they have to get involved. And then some may want to get involved because they see you're happy or you're seeing potentials that you never saw before. Any points you want to add to that?
Yeah, if I think about some of the prospecting I've done in the past when people weren't open, I built good relationships with them. And I think that's really important. Like Chris said, it's got to be comfortable for them to have an out. And, I can totally understand that you're going through a lot right now. Maybe we can follow up in a few months from now down the road, if that works for you, and just see how the circumstances are going for you at that time. And often people are very comfortable to say yes. And if they're totally not open and it's totally not their thing, I would ask for a referral. What do I have to lose, right? They know people. And they probably know people who have been downsized. They probably know, and I would say that you probably know people who love sales. You probably know people who love a challenge, who are successful, that are looking for opportunities. If you happen to know somebody, would you send them my way? They're going to tell you. And often they're going to say, yeah, sure. And I've had that happen with a lady that owned hair salons. And she was a super busy lady and she was close to retirement at that time. And she said, Tammy, I really like you. I want to help you. Here's 3 names of some of my sales reps that stopped by to sell supplies to me at the store. So I called those 3 people. Out of those 3 people, one of those women were one of my top leaders. So I just want to tell you to ask. Don't be afraid to ask. You've got nothing to lose in any of this. Okay? Just ask. And they may say, oh, I don't know anybody. Okay, great. Well, I really appreciate it anyways. And if you happen to down the road, somebody's saying, hey, do you know of a job opening that's coming up? Would you think of me? And pass my number to these people. I always find a way to make it comfortable for them and to still get in. And that is practice, because I couldn't do that when I was new. I had to get out of that comfort zone, you know, and just, you know what? You got to learn that no is not now. No is just temporary. And when I got that, that's when I started really, really prospecting a lot. And because I had no fear. I have no fear. I'll call Donald Trump right now if he'd test me. Actually, Chris called Donald Trump in the past.
I don't know if it's a good idea.
I'm kidding.
But actually, this is, honest to God, is the truth. This is probably about 18 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, he did. I was in the car.
I was in the car with one of my mentor, and I'm telling you, I was absolutely no fear. I did not care. And he says, we were talking about something like that. And he says, hey, I got Donald Trump's phone number here. You know, remember, he was a businessman at the time in New York. And I said, give me his number. I'll call him. And I call this number and I say, may I speak to Donald Trump, please? And she said, what's in regard? Oh, he's expecting my call. I knew she would brush me off, right? So she turns around. Oh, just wait a moment, please. So, what's your name? My name is Christian Gingras. I'm calling from. I think it was in Ottawa or Toronto. I forgot where we were. Somewhere in Ontario. And she turned around. She was gone for, I don't know, probably 5 minutes or so. And then she came back, and I was all excited. I mean, I'm going to speak to Donald Trump, And long story short, she turned around and says, I don't know how she brought you. Anyway, she ended up realizing that he didn't know me.
And schedule.
I was not in his schedule, blah, blah, blah. But my point is that have no fear. They are human beings, and we all breathe the same air. We all have the same color of blood underneath our skin. We are all the same. And I'm telling you, I've been telling myself these things, and that's way back to get over the fear that we create. Sometimes creating an image of someone that obviously have success, right? So, but that's really interesting. That was, Maripol, you may know him. That was Dan Caddo from our previous company.
I was in the car. I'll never forget that.
Yeah. It was really interesting. Okay, so back to the point. You notice here, I put in the max action report. Okay, that's for the next point. And I suggest that you access it. And this is accessible from the active team under the training new associate orientation subdirectory. And one thing that's very important.
I want to do this one. One size does not
I forgot
fit
this one.
All.
Yeah, okay, you go ahead.
That's the point, is to be natural. Often people say, oh, I need a script. You really don't need a script. What you need to do is to be in the moment and connect with that person. Just start a conversation. It's so easy to start a conversation with everything that's going on in the world. It's easy to start a conversation. Okay. So just talk about the weather, talk about what's going on. Talk about whatever you heard in the news this morning. Talk about something that will trigger a conversation, and you'll be surprised on how far you're going to go with this. And not needing a script, but you need some guidelines, because at the end of the day, your goal is to find out what some of their needs are. So you want to control the conversation in a way that you're not drilling people, because you don't want to be ask one question. I'm looking at my list. Oh, I got to ask the other question. You can't do that. Okay. You just got to connect with people and be normal and natural. And I'm telling you, people can read you just as much as you're reading them, whether it's on the phone call or whether it's in person or on a Zoom chat. They want to connect with people that are like them. So be down to earth, be like them.
Absolutely.
Right.
And understanding that one size does not fit all. Also, it's what Tammy is saying also is the personality types.
Yeah.
And you need to adjust to that. If you're talking to a person who tends to like the idea of entrepreneurship and making money, and all you do is talk about science and products, you're going to bore them. They might be polite, but you're going to lose them. They don't have time to waste, right? And that's what's going on in their mind. if someone is a golden retriever, these are nice folks. The golden they're nice dogs, right? The golden retriever, they're loyal,
huggy,
they're huggy, they're warm,
they love
right?
people.
So if you're talking to a golden retriever type of personality and you're there like a lion trying to, like a drill sergeant with questions and bottom line and profits. And again, it's just not going to work. Mm-hmm. See, personality, and that's where Tammy talked about we should do a training on that, because we've followed courses and also given courses on different personality type, right? And there's kind of major 5 different personality type, right? The first one, we were talking about the golden retriever. There's lions, there's otters.
Yeah. How do you invite them to look at some information?
There's beavers, and there's people like the doctors and the contractors, and so there's all the different personalities to adjust, and that's what's really important. And that's when you mature in this kind of business, and that's when you attend this Eric Worre event that we just posted the link here. You're going to find all different type of personality. Some of them, they speak and they scream like they scare the heck out of you because they're so loud, right? Like wonderful ladies like Jessie Lee, but that's her personality. That's her style. She will attract who she is, where others are calm. Some are very classy and fancy, and others are more like blue collars, or like, whatever. So it's just that people, you have to adjust. And that's the point, is that one size does not fit all. And you need to be a bit of a chameleon and adjust with people's different personality type. And you will find that you will be able to attract a lot more people within your organization.
I just want to add a perfect scenario. Sue, when we did that 3-way call with Heather, or with, Heidi, and you were looking for science. You were looking, to validate the products and stuff like that. And I came straight out and I told Sue, my husband and I are business builders. We do a lot of the training platforms, but I want to introduce you to Jasmine, because Jasmine, and then I sold Jasmine to Sue, that they'd be able to relate, because Jasmine had the answers for her question. So you don't have to be that person all the time. Be comfortable to say, I'm not that person. And Sue and I had a great conversation. And then the next step was for her to talk to Jasmine and to get her answers with Jasmine. So that's how this rolls, okay, on third-party validation. You may be really good at the product, and then you're talking to an entrepreneur, and you haven't made money yet in the business. Don't freeze. You can say something like, I'd like to introduce you to the top couple, or the top guy, or one of the entrepreneurs that have created a lot of success in their first 6 months in this business, or whatever you want to say to introduce somebody that they can relate to. So you're kind of pulling yourself out without making yourself look bad, because you're edifying somebody else to get to that next step. And make it a comfortable transition of edifying that person and setting up that appointment so they can talk to them. I don't know how many times I've been in scenarios like that, because I'm not the product person. I'm not the science person. I'm going to find somebody that they can talk to. I'm the type of person that's going to say, hey, Sue, just try the product. You're going to feel it. But she's looking for science, so I can't do that, right?
So that's again, it goes on to the last 2 points that we're going to cover here. But tracking your no's, this is very important. That's what I meant earlier, the Max Action Report. It's not just about tracking your no's, but tracking how many people are you talking to? Mm-hmm. What are you sharing with people? Obviously, we don't send DVDs and stuff like that anymore. Like once upon a time, we don't send cassettes anymore. We're evolving. But the information is on that sheet. And keep track of the work that you do on a weekly basis, right? When you turn around and he says, well, I'm not making money. Well, look at the amount of work that you might have done, or maybe the amount of work you have not done. And I think it's important to have a clear perspective on what we're comparing our results to. Too many times I get people complaining, I'm not making enough money, but I tell them, if you would have done the amount of work you did in your Max business that you do in your work, Would you still have your job today? And people look at me and they laugh. Exactly. Right? So that's the point, is you need to treat that business like a business. And when you track your activities and you see your volume, right? Is it increasing month to month, or is it staying the same for a year, right? In other words, I'm bringing new people in, but the volume is not increasing. That means people are leaving. That means there might be some issue going on with the support system. Or I'm talking to a lot of people, nobody's signing up. Well, maybe you're talking too much. Maybe you're overwhelming the person. Maybe when the person is ready to sign up, you're not ready to sign them up because in your mind, you think they still need more. See, these are all the things that we can work with you if you understand your activities and the results you're getting from those activities. That's what that sheet is all about. So that's what we mean by tracking your no's. Keep track of the people not doing the business, but keep track of also the activities that you've done, because you should have way more no's than yes. If you have more yes than no, something's wrong. That's reality. You should have way more no's than yeses. Normal. And understanding that, then you're prepared to accept that, okay, well, not everybody's going to want to do this. You don't get discouraged because your 5 contacts, all of them said no, because maybe contact number 6 that you didn't even consider could be the yes. And that's why we're going through the 11 recruiting mistakes that people do in this kind of business. Now, the last 2 points are absolutely critical, is not following up. I would say that's probably 90% of the reason why people tend to not have results in this business. Mm-hmm. They talk to someone one time, maybe 2 times, but I think most of them don't. And what happens is they're afraid to get back to them because maybe the rejection, as I said earlier, and they don't want to be rejected. They don't want to hear no. In their mind, they feel like, well, there's still maybe if I don't bother them. And, so the fact is you need to follow up. And we have many trainings on that. And Tammy and I are revisiting all our trainings and redoing all our trainings. By the way, if you have not done that already, if you go to Active Team Training on YouTube, I suggest that you just become registered, enroll. I forgot. I have to read this more often. You know what I mean? Just make sure that you are subscribe. That's the one that I just can never remember for the life of me. Subscribe. And from there, when you subscribe, the moment we upload a video, you get notified and you can check them out right away. And it could be a video that could be very helpful. The last 3 that we've done, well, the last 2 anyway. The first one was something about your goals and your dreams and so forth. And I think it was a very important one. And I believe the company has featured on their own website, actually. And the second one the last one that we just did recently is the success cycle. If you have not listened to that, I really recommend you do. It's very helpful to give you a perspective on what you should be aware of, what you should learn, right? You'll get notified. Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm working on a PowerPoint right now. I'm just waiting. I thought the transition was going to be December 1st on the new virtual office to be able to set up. So I'm working on a PowerPoint for that. And looks like we're going to wait a little bit longer. So once that's done, I will do a recorded webinar. So you'll have that to be able to use and to be able to share it with your brand new person. And it's going to be about how to sign up customers, how to sign up customers and associates, but how they also can sign up themselves. Because sometimes you're going to meet people that are not comfortable to give you their credit card. You're total strangers and they're on social media, right? So they're not comfortable to give it to you. So how can they sign up as a customer or an associate? And just to prepare a brand new person. So that's also going to be coming out. Yeah.
So back to the follow-up process is what's very important is, and Tammy talked about when someone is, for example, doing a call, an initial call. When you finish your call with that person, that conversation with that person, conversation could be through a webinar, it could be through a phone call, whatever the situation, you always have to have a next course of action. You've got to link this call, this connection to the next. Okay. And then from there, when you do the follow-up call, then you can link that new conversation to the previous conversation where you left off, all the way up to signing them up into the business, or becoming a customer, or just accepting that they don't want to do anything with this. And that's totally fine too, right? These are the three outcomes.
Yeah.
Not interested, or starting the business, the product, and not interested. Okay. These are the three options. And because of not interested does not mean you don't follow up with them. Mm-hmm. You finish again. This is the next course of action.
It means
hey,
not
John,
now.
Mary, Ronald, is it okay if I call you back in 6 months, let you know how I'm doing? Fear of loss. Just in case you do well, they want to know, mm-hmm. right? So when you call them up in 6 months, they're actually, so how are you doing with that business? And you don't know what their state of mind may be, their financial situation may be. Often, people were in a good situation. Now they're going through a divorce, or so many things happens that people are looking for something new. Mm-hmm. And you could be hitting right at the right time at the right place for this. And the last one is the bonus portion is that Eric talked about, and following Jefferson Santos' topic is people don't use third-party credibility. Some of the greatest leads that we're working on right now, one of the reasons why Paul is not here this evening is because he's working on a very, very powerful prospect that is ready to have maybe over 300 people at a presentation for December 19th. And we're meeting originally on December 4th, right? And and it's a French group. He doesn't speak French. So it's a lot of work for him, right? It's his team. So, but the point is that how did that happen? How did that materialize? It didn't just happen. He did his prospect thing. I think it was through LinkedIn.
Yeah, and total stranger. He
utilized third-party credibility. And me and that person, his name was Ibrahim, I think. Mm-hmm. And we hit it off. It was absolutely wonderful. We had a great conversation, and it was a bond that was created that Paul was able to build upon. Right. And many of you have done that too. This, for example, Suzanne, right? We had the session with Heidi.
Yeah.
Heidi. It was wonderful. We had a great connection. It was fun. Right. So the point here is that you utilize third-party validation. There's so much that we can add. And I'm not just talking about us. It could be someone that sponsored you to the business. Some of you that did sponsor you in the business, but you know what I mean? It just or Tammy, what's important is that utilize third-party credibility, validation from people that are not lying about this business. They are living, and you guys know it. I mean, that's all we do. You don't buy a house in Florida and buy a Tesla if you don't make money. You understand what I mean? I mean, it's clear, and the credibility is there. That's my point. So the fact is, utilize that third party, and trust me, we're not going to vent. It's not it. It's just that there's some credibility that brings the reality that you can make money doing this business, and not utilizing that, it's taking away some elements that could be very, very powerful to help you bring some value to this opportunity for that person. Mm-hmm. Any other point you want to add?
Yeah, keep us busy. I mean, third-party validation, leverage as often as you can to get those three-way calls in. Don't be shy to send us a text. I know, Mila, we've been talking. Sue, we've been talking. William, we were chatting today. Who else that's on? So we've been doing this a little bit, and we'd love to do it a whole lot more to serve you and help you bring your prospects in. And, help them get started right.
Absolutely.
So leverage as much as you can. Often people say, well, you guys are busy. Yes, we're busy. But if you call on us, or especially if you give us some advance notice, I know Sheni, she's not on. She's probably doing the same thing, prospecting, but she's been pretty busy connecting with me through three-way calls as well. So leverage this as much as you can. And hey, if we're available, we'll set up a call.
Beautiful, beautiful. So folks, last point, you probably noticed the new associate orientation. There has been some updates on this document that we adjusted with, some of the addendum that Max International has created. I'm just going to unmute everybody here, ask all to unmute. Okay, so feel free to unmute yourself if you want to and bring your beautiful faces so we can see your smiles. So feel free to click on that link to download the actual new associate orientation and go through it. And if you have any comments, anything that you'd like to have updated or changed, let us know. We would be happy to make some changes based on your recommendation. So I hope that was fine, Scott. It's thank you. It was nice to have you here, and thank you everybody. Also, yes, Maripol, that's true. We Tammy and I created a webinar that plays every 15 minutes, and once we're in Florida, we'll update that one. And if you go to Max Pays, try it. You'll see it. Max MAXPAYS.com. MaxPays.com. When you go there. Every 15 minutes, like I have a call book at 1:30 in the afternoon and 7:30 in the afternoon Eastern time. But really, every 15 minutes, it's gonna go ahead and play, just like it's like a real webinar. And this is good for people all around the world, depending on what they're looking for and so forth, based on time zone, because it's always playing. And I'd love your feedback. I would love your feedback on the comment section where it says, email your comments. I will be receiving that comment, and I'd love to get your feedback. The more feedback we get, it is tools for us to evolve and improve. Okay. Any other feedback? We have about 1 minute before we end the call here. Any feedback or questions anybody may want to share or communicate, and don't feel like you have to. Just want to give you an opportunity to share if you don't want to. If you do want to.
Chris, I had a quick question. We had someone talk about taking the actual supplements of the glutathione. And I remember at one of the sessions you talked about, or someone talked about how we can't absorb it. I just wondered if there was some kind of article or something on that I could show the person.
That they can't absorb
glutathione. Yeah. I would send a quick message to Jasmine. I mean, she's got tons of documents under her belt for stuff like that. I would go to her first and see what she has.
Yeah, Jasmine, I have to admit, she has a library of data. But between you and I just want a bit more clarity. I mean, glutathione, you don't absorb it. Your body produces it. We have the precursors, which comes from the ribosine. So what do you mean by, I don't fully understand the question.
The person actually said from the health food store or whatever, got the pills that were glutathione pills.
Okay, well, obviously.
Yeah, and we were trying to say to them, well, you can't. But
yeah.
I wanted some proof to be able to show them.
Okay, you know what? Do you have my, who brought you to business, Heidi?
Janet.
Janet.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, Janet, you're very resourceful. You got a lot of information, right, like that?
Yeah, I can find something.
Okay, but do you have some documents?
About an audio by Dr. Crozier on his SoundCloud. He does say that ribosine is genetically compatible with everyone. It bypasses the pathways.
Digestive tract and so forth. Exactly. And there's a lot of document ID that we have for years. I mean, at least a full decade of data. So Janet, go ahead and forward that.
There's something available.
And there's so much information available for that. Obviously the person that at the store don't fully really understand what glutathione is all about. And that's why we're here. That's why we have this kind of information. And as a team, with that collective mind, I mean, you become invincible because we got every answers. We just need to dig it out. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, that's wonderful. Well, folks, thank you so much for attending this evening. And next week, we'll follow up with another topic. And also wanted to let you know that Tammy and I have also partnered with Ann Turnbull because we both do a lot of our teams. They're all mingled together in Africa. And so because today is the last month of the day, in Africa, a lot of things are done in the office. So we don't want to bother people on the last day of the month. So that's why it's been pushed to tomorrow. So if you happen to be available, just stay tuned. I'll post some of those slides, those flyers on the group, so you'll be aware of, and you don't feel that you have to go. Again, it's just for you to choose if you want to be part of it or not, and want to let you know, because it's been very constructive, and it's a different audience, and you may also get more details or data from there. But generally, Anne and I communicate, and we keep kind of a similar topic to be consistent throughout the entire week. Okay. So folks, listen, have yourself a wonderful, wonderful evening, and thank you so much for attending, and really appreciate your participation this evening.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.